Welcome to Double Fries No Slaw. It is Sunday evening, July 18th. We're 49 days away from kickoff. Richie, I feel like it's getting close. And we are joined by a very special guest tonight, former FSU quarterback and NFL Super Bowl champion Brad Johnson. Brad, thank you so much for hanging out tonight, man. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you guys reaching out. Just kind of enjoying the summertime, coaching high school football, workouts in the mornings, and making TikTok videos in the afternoon. So get to spend some time with you guys tonight. So appreciate you guys reaching out.
Yeah, we've definitely enjoyed the TikTok videos. We're going to get into that in just a minute for sure. I know Richie's been outside on his courts in Orlando practicing to try and one up you. I don't know if he can or not, but man, we go chronologically with a lot of things. We start with people. Their high school, college, pro career. But I told you this before we started. I am the biggest fanboy ever when it comes to that first Super Bowl. I told Richie just before we got started, one of the best nights of my life was watching you guys win it all. That 2002 season, 2003 Super Bowl. Does it ever really sink in that you're a Super Bowl champion? Like, you see the Super Bowl every year. You understand it's the biggest. I mean, you got the flag behind you for those that aren't watching and listen to this later, but what is that like to be remembered? I quarterbacked the team to win a Super Bowl. What's that like?
Yeah. I pinch myself every day for that opportunity. In 1987, I was a senior in high school. Couldn't decide if I was going to play football or basketball in college. Ended up playing two sports at Florida State. Played basketball for 2 years, but couldn't decide. I was a basketball junkie. And but in 1987, that's when the New York Giants, the great Phil Simms, went 22 for 25, threw 3 touchdowns against the great John Elway, Denver Broncos. And he said, "I'm going to Disneyland." And so, I'm making this choice. And 16 years later, I couldn't decide if I was going with football or basketball in 1987. 16 years later, 2003 with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We win the Super Bowl 48-21 over the Raiders, and I hold my son Max. He's 2 years old, and dog's barking there. And and my wife, she's 7.5 months pregnant with our other son Jake, and confetti's falling, and we're saying we're going to Disney. John Gruden, and it's pretty awesome. And now when the Super Bowl when it takes place, and when the game's over, I always wait to the very end of that game to watch, who's going to Disney, and just know the feelings that they're going through, and the best team one day of your life. And
little bit of a connection here. Brad, you still with us? Richie, you may want to shoot him a quick text. Brad, you still there with us? It may be good if he jumps out and jumps back in, but we'll get him back on here in just a minute. I got everybody.
I'm with you. I see you. Can you hear me?
It's kind of every other word. The connection's not real good. I don't know if it's
I got you.
Can we try turning off Can you try turning off your video?
Yeah.
Will that? Let's see here. You can clean this up, Harlan, later. Let's see. While we're live on the air, this is the power of live technology. Richie, see if he could join back. I kicked him real quick. A lot of times the connection just somehow seems to come through a little stronger when he joins back. Live TV. We'll be back on just a minute, everybody. I appreciate you bearing with us as we do a little live. His connection was great and everything before everything started. So hopefully he'll just join back We'll get Super Bowl champion, former FSU quarterback Brad Johnson back on the podcast. He's talking about the moment and what it felt like to win that first Super Bowl as Richie is fiercely typing away over there. I talked about this off air, and so I'll actually I think I've got him back here.
You got me?
Yeah, a little better now. I don't know what it was.
That.
No, you're totally fine.
So you can ignore the text I just sent you, Brad, where I said hop out and hop back in.
So
much better. Yeah, there we go.
You guys dominated that game, but it didn't start out domination, right? It was 3-0 after the first quarter, and then slowly just kind of took over. But once you guys got up big, and then you guys kept having to go back out there and piling on the lead, was it hard to kind of like stay composed and stay focused when you kind of knew you had the Super Bowl in the bag, like in the third quarter? Like how weird is that for like to be not over, right? Anything could happen. They kind of made it somewhat close late, but what's it like to kind of like go back out there on the field and be like, man, this thing's over?
Well, it definitely was a slow first quarter. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you're just trying to gain field position, trying to gain momentum, get first downs, get a field goal, get a touchdown, however it was. And it's 3-0. And all of a sudden, we scored back-to-back touchdowns in the second quarter. Right at the end of the half, went up 23, hit Keenan McCardell on a fade stop in the back of the end zone on the right-hand side. The play was called South Right Nickel 41, killed 374 Wasp. So we were up 23 at half. That felt very good.
Yeah.
In the third quarter, we rolled. We got up 34-3 right at the end of the third quarter. And okay, we got a chance. I remember looking at the clock. And then all of a sudden, they throw a touchdown pass to Jerry Porter, but they went for 2. They had a block punt, and they went for 2. And then they scored again on another pass to Jerry Rice on a post. Next thing you know, it scores 34-21. But they went for 2 like 3 consecutive times, which cost them points. And I remember there's like 6-7 minutes to go in the game. We're going to have to close this thing out. And they threw a pick with like a minute and a half to go. They threw 2 interceptions right at the end of the half. So, at the end of the game, which made the game, took the game out of control. But it got tight there in the fourth quarter. You think about what happened to the Patriots and the Falcons where they had a big lead. And so, in this game, the game's never over till it's over.
Yeah.
They had an MVP player and Rich Gannon, quarterback, and Jerry Rice and Tim Brown and Romanowski. They were loaded with players. They were a tremendous team. But we had great players, too. We had Hall of Famers on our team, too. And so it was a great game. And however you win those games, you don't really work on style points. You just want to win by, 1 point. And that's kind of what we did that day. It was a great win for Buccaneer history, for sure.
Yeah. And Brad, I've been a Buccaneer fan my entire life, really ever since you guys drafted Brooks and Dunn. Obviously we're a Florida State show, so we're those are my guys that transitioned me from being a Dolphins fan, which my dad was with the Dan Marino, to Tampa Bay. But I remember that season pretty specifically, and the defense seemed to get all the credit that year, and rightfully so. They were phenomenal. It was one of the best defenses ever. But you guys really showed up at Philadelphia. You shut down the old stadium there, and then go on to win the Super Bowl. Joe Jurevicius, Keyshawn Johnson, a lot of guys. The offense kind of held their own. Obviously, it's a team. You're winning a lot of games. You don't want to get into this versus that, but did you guys on offense kind of hear that noise that the defense kind of is carrying this team, and you guys said, well, hold up, we can play football too?
Well, if you look at any world champion, San Francisco 49ers with Joe Montana, or Brett Favre's team with Green Bay and Reggie White and Leroy Brown, Leroy Butler, you look at Dallas Cowboy teams, you look at John Elway's teams, 99% of them had unbelievable defenses.
Yes, sir.
Let's face it. But our defense had some headliners. We had 3 guys that have made the Hall of Fame, and Warren Sapp and Derrick Brooks and John Lynch now, and hopefully Rondé Barber and Simeon Rice will. But we had a lot of great players that didn't get talked about. Dexter Jackson won the MVP, and Brian Kelly and Greg Spires. But offensively, we made a bunch of moves that year. And in free agency, John Gruden came in his first year learning the first system, very similar to what happened with Tom Brady this year. They made 10 moves in free agency. We made 15 to 19. We brought in Joe Jurevicius and Keenan McCardell and Robin Oben, Kerry Jenkins and Michael Pittman. And we brought in players. And so we were 3-1 every 4 games, and so ended up the season 12-4. And if you really look at what we did, we're averaging 28, 29 points a game on offense, especially second half of the season. We caught on fire. And so we had that many headliners on defense, a great defense. They're going to get the storyline, but then offensive, we had some some great players too.
Yeah.
You get the story wasn't written about the offense, which is, at the time, you know what you signed up for. You want to win the Super Bowl, and it takes 53 collectively to do it, and some great coaches too. And that's what that's what you want the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and going from that year, man, one of my favorite plays. You're on the goal line, right? Joe Juravicius again. I think you guys you're playing Philadelphia, and I think it was Monday Night Football, and he runs.
This was the next year.
The next
year. What you're talking about was the next year.
All right. Well, still, I have to ask about this. I remember, like, my parents let me stay up late because I was a young buck back then. And you throw it, he like taps it up to himself, turns around, grabs the pass, scores the touchdown. Like, what was that like? And when you threw it, you can be honest. Like, was that where you were aiming, or did Joe just make you look good? Because either way, you both looked good on that play.
Yeah, Joe's a phenomenal athlete. He actually ended up playing in 3 Super Bowls, one with the Giants, us, and Seattle. Joe played volleyball, I believe, 1 or 2 years at Penn State. Tremendous athlete. He's got a daughter now that's she'll be on like the 18U. She's actually going to Nebraska now as a volleyball player. But Joe was a tremendous athlete. The play was double left wing, sprint right, Q8. And that was the play, so a little rollout to the right. And they actually went all out blitz, and I threw the ball behind Joe a little bit. Actually could have got picked off. Joe actually tipped it to himself.
Yeah.
And flipped and caught it this way in the back of the end zone. Phenomenal play. His awareness, but those were the skill set that he had playing basketball, playing volleyball, and obviously a tremendous football player. But that was one that kind of saved me. Embarrassment of a 99-yard interception for a touchdown. But he was a phenomenal player.
He had 2 catches. He had both touchdown catches in that game, if I remember correctly. The other one was a toe. He dotted the I, as Gene Deckerhoff used to say, right? He dotted the I and caught one in the other corner of the end zone. I believe we won that game 17-0. And it was the first win in the new Eagles Stadium, and then obviously the last one in the old Eagles Stadium was the one that Rondé picked off the pass and took it back to shut down the vet. So, but yeah, I mean, you talked about that, and then I got another question for you, and we'll again try not to keep you too long, but we can sit here and talk about the highlights all day. But yeah, the offensive players were so underrated on that team. You talk about Pittman and McCardell, and I mean, we didn't even mention Keyshawn and. Dilger, all the guys, all started on the team. Like, I mean, the list just goes on, but just such a collective team. And really like the epitome of, I mean, obviously Derek got so much credit that year, and John was so good, and Rondé and Simeon and Sapp and all those guys. But like just the collective team of just like, we really don't care who gets credit here. We just want to win, like you think about like the star, like other teams that have won, not there's anything wrong with this, but your Brady's and your Mahomes and guys like that, where like just they get everything. Your Kobe's and LeBrons, right? Like that team really, and not that it didn't have its talent. I mean, Derrick Brooks is one of the best ever played, Sapp, those guys, but just the epitome of, man, we're just going to go out here and win games. Like that's all we really care about. And that's, the kind of the way we felt. Speaking of some of those guys though, what was it like having that FSU connection on some of them, right? Like Dexter, Greg, and Derek. I mean, once you get to the pros, is that kind of FSU connection? Do you still kind of lean to those guys, or favor them a little more, or maybe just give the Gators some crap while they're or Sapp, when beating up on their teams on Saturdays, or what is that FSU connection like once you get to the pros?
Yeah, there was a strong connection. After every game, I always would take a picture of guys that were on the field that were from Florida State, the friendships. And so my whole house is full of pictures with guys either I play with or a bunch of Florida State guys. And so honestly, when we were at Florida State, we said, if you win the state championship, which is University of Florida or the University of Miami, the winner of those 2 games has a good chance of winning the national championship. Yeah. And so we had 14 straight years at Florida State, and starting in 1987, where Florida State finished in the top 4, 14 straight years. And so when Tony Dungy was there in Tampa, he drafted a lot of the Florida State players. You went through a top-notch program. You were used to winning. And that's a big thing. Get used to winning, how to win, how to work, and do it on a consistent basis. So, but Greg Spires, those guys were, and then when I made my move in free agency to come to Tampa, I knew Tony Dungy because he was in Minnesota with me for 3 years as a defense coordinator. We had a good relationship, but I played against Tampa's team for a bunch of years. And whether I was in Minnesota or Washington, I had great respect for him. And so for me, I felt like I had a great contract. I felt like it was a place I could win. And I felt like for me personally, I'd be the first quarterback in Tampa Bay franchise to hoist the trophy. The other guy, the state of Florida, last time they did it was a guy named Bob Greasy, 1971. Oh. So, and now Tom Brady did it 18 years later, which is pretty cool. You know what I mean? But knowing the connection of the Florida State guys, knowing the program, what those guys were about, I wanted to join forces, and it was a perfect fit.
I went back today and rewatched the DVD, which I do. I feel like once a year of you guys winning, and you're on that DVD at the very end, like while Dwight Smith is running the ball back down the other way with like 2 seconds left. You're holding your son, right? And what a moment! You talked about your wife being like 7 months pregnant with your other baby that was coming, but you're holding Max, and then we grow up 20 years later, and here goes Max kicking the Gators' tail in Gainesville. In Gainesville, as a big underdog, not supposed to win. Backup QB comes in and beats UF. Were you in the swamp that night? Were you talk to us about that night? I know you have it out for UF. Like, just, I know you bleed garnet and gold. What was it like seeing your son go in there, hostile environment, and pick up that road win when nobody expected LSU to win that game?
Right. I've coached Max pretty much out of the womb. We're doing 3 and 5 step drops at 6 and 7 years old. You know what I mean? So coached at all his youth teams and middle school teams and high school teams, and so chose to blaze his own path by going to LSU. And last year was a weird year for a lot of kids in college, whether it's COVID or kids opting out. And so he's a hard worker, about 6'5", 220. And he finally got his chance to play and start in that game, had some opportunities to come in as a backup. And they win as 23.5-point underdogs. And Florida, no one gave him a chance. Florida's trying to win a national championship, and Trask, the quarterback, now the Buccaneers backup quarterback, was trying to win a Heisman. And LSU came in there and beat them in the swamp, in the fog, and 57-yard field goal. The thrown shoe that took place, but it's an awesome experience for Max to be a part of that and to overcome something when no one gave him a chance. So as a parent, you sit there in the stands. I mean, all you're doing is you're eating popcorn, and I can't yell at him saying, "Look out for that guy," or "Throw to that guy," or you just got to sit there and take it. And so it was a great night for Max and LSU and obviously our family.
I was in Tallahassee that day. Florida State beat Florida on the basketball court, and then we beat Duke that afternoon. And then I went over to Proof Brewing and watched LSU. It was a great day for FSU to not only win both of our big sports, but to watch you guys win. Richie, I'll pass it to you, and then we'll wrap up here in a second.
Yeah, Brad, and you touched on it a little bit, but when you came to Florida State, you weren't a part of the football program your first year, I don't believe. You came for basketball. Tell us about your recruitment there.
Scholarship. In high school, I scored 2,392 points and Player of the Year. I came out of North Carolina, and but I had to choose, what sport I wanted to play and potentially go pro. And I chose Florida State just for football, but I was being redshirted my first year. So I ended up played 2 years of basketball at Florida State for Pat Kennedy. I went to the NCAAs twice. And then after that, my second year, I had to decide what I was going to play football, because I was missing half of spring football because of going to the NCAAs, or I was missing a little bit of basketball because of the length of the football season. So that's kind of what happened to me.
So how cool was that, just to have Coach Bowden come into your living room and say, "Hey, Brad, we want you to come to play for Florida State." And I love the timing, because it was really at the very start of the dynasty, right? Like Florida State wasn't what it is now, but you believed in Florida State and Coach Bowden and what he was selling. But just what's it like to have Coach Bowden in your house saying, "Hey, I want you to come play for me," coming in really at being at the front end of that dynasty and then seeing what it became, because it doesn't happen in college football very often. What happened at Florida State?
There's no doubt. The only team that's not even comparable. We won 14 straight years, being in the top 4.
Top 5, yeah.
I think the only team that's close to that is maybe Clemson. Alabama's probably heading in that direction as far as finishing in the top 4. But it's incredible. And you think about the talent he brought in. It was a place where coaches weren't getting fired. Coaches weren't really leaving to go get other jobs. And it's, you talk about a family atmosphere. That's what it was. It was hard work. And we didn't win a national championship when I was there. Coach Bowden did end up winning 2. When he came to my house in 1987, I think he was like 63. Had 165 wins and ended up with like over 360 wins. And it's incredible. And to say that it's pretty awesome to say that he was my coach and one of the best of all time. And he did the program right. They weren't cheating. They weren't doing anything illegal. It was straight up recruit, straight up play ball. And just grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah. And that's, man, it's just so fun because I was born in '88, and so I've been spoiled as a Florida State fan the whole time, hearing all about that. But I have 2 last things. One, I just want to ask your thoughts on Mike Norvell and where he has this program going. Obviously he came in, not a lot of ties to Florida. He's done a really good job. Hired Ryan Bartow, recently Kenyatta Watson, some people that have Florida and Georgia kind of, recruiting standpoint. Yeah. They have that covered to where they can at least get Mike Norvell in the door. Have you had a chance to meet him or talk to him, and just your initial thoughts on him and the program moving forward? Because I know TG and I both are very positive. We think we got the right guy, man.
No doubt about it. I mean, I'll be honest with you, my other son, Jake, he's a tight end. He's graduating this year. He actually is committed to LSU, but we went through the process with Florida State, and Jake wants to blaze his own trail too, and be with his brother Max. But we got to go through conversations and talk with FaceTime with Coach Norvell and Coach Thompson, the tight ends coach. And so you're excited about where Florida State's headed. It's kind of a weird couple years at Florida State, but I think they got the right guy in place. He's committed. He's going to do things the right way. Get the right kind of players in his program and kind of not clean house, but kind of get it. It's going to take a few years to get it to the level of what expectations of Florida State. So I think when guys want to be there, and for a guy like Coach Norvell is very organized, very communicates with fans, communicates with the players, and he's going to bring the best players he can in there. So just excited about the future, what's going to take place there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited, man. And the last thing I want to ask you about, so I'm only 33, but I don't have a TikTok. Like I'm still trying to figure out what TikTok is and all this stuff. But you have gone viral lately, Brad, for your trick shots, man. You got a full length basketball / tennis court in your backyard, it looks like, and you have all these trick shot sequences where you make. It's just not one shot. Like you're doing 3-4 in a row and then throwing a football across the court into the other side. Right. Like how'd this come about, man? Like, cause I'm enjoying it. Like I love watching it. And actually when I saw it is when I decided to DM you and say, hey man, I kind of want this guy on the podcast. He looks like be a fun guy to hang out with.
Before you answer, it wasn't playing at Florida State. It wasn't winning Super Bowls. It was the trick shots thing that hooked Richie. I just want to say that before.
Yeah. I got him. Yeah, my kids were on TikTok about a year ago. They're actually off of it now, but I got on there, and at first I started making videos of my career, and you can it's kind of chronological. It's actually started at the beginning. You'll see the Super Bowl stuff and stuff that took place, and it's kind of some stuff that'll make you laugh. And then I started doing a lot of trick shots about 4 or 5 months ago, and so I don't just hit one shot, kind of like you said. Everything's sequenced. It's multiple. It's 3, 4, 5 shots. It might end where shoot one over the backboard and one behind the back, and then one between my legs, and I throw a football full court. And if it doesn't go in, I'll do it again. So I could be out there for some of them go fast, some of them they take a little time, but it really kind of it's pretty neat. It gives me some exercise, and hopefully everyone enjoys. And so I actually wear this hat is the hat I kind of people. It's called Big Bad Brad. I'm on there as Big Bad
I
Brad.
love it.
All right. And then on the side, this was a hat that was given to me in the
Let's
Super Bowl,
go.
actually. There's the pennant for the Super Bowl. My nickname it was always the Bull, but I go as Big Bad Brad on here. So we're getting ready to start some merchandise, and everything's going to go to charity. It's called Beyond All Borders up in North Carolina, where I grew up. But hopefully everyone can get on my TikTok. They can enjoy it. And I put it on Twitter. I put it on Instagram, and hopefully everyone enjoys. They can laugh. I try to be have a lot of humor with it, and hopefully some people can go out there and try some of those shots too. You might be out there a while, but it's fun though.
Oh, we have in our community, we have HOA, we have a clubhouse with a pool and a basketball tennis court. I was telling my wife earlier, I'm like, I need to go get some trick shots, and I need you to videotape them for me so I can hopefully get a Brad Johnson retweet. So if I post a video this week, I expect that retweet, Brad. I need that. I need that.
Well, I always on my Twitter, I always put, send your video. So if you do it, I'll put it out there.
Absolutely.
How can people? I mean, you talked a little bit about a lot of it's going to try and go to charity. When you get the merchandise up, when you get different things up, is that the best way for people to go? And we're big on charity, we're big on giving back and supporting and things like that. So, is that the best way for people to kind of contribute to the charities that you're going towards, the merchandise and different things like that?
Yeah, this is the two charities I'm involved with is the Evelyn Foundation. I've done a golf tournament for those guys for over 20 years up in North Carolina. We live in Athens, Georgia, but the Evelyn Foundation, and then Beyond All Borders. And so when we get the merchandise out here, we'll blast it, and I'll tag you guys and all that kind of stuff. But you can find me on Instagram at Brad_Johnson_14, and then you can find me on wherever else you can hunt me down. You know what I mean? So we'll blast it.
We'll share your ads.
Yeah. All right, I'll ask you this, and then we'll get you out of here, man. We appreciate so much your time again.
Yeah.
Rich and I always have been massive fans, and so appreciate your time coming on. Double fries, no slaw, obviously an ode there to Guthrie's. Back in the early '90s, late '80s, were you throwing down some gut boxes back in your day, or what's the story there?
Sometimes I had lunch at Guthrie's, and then sometimes I had some late night outs. I was at Ken's Tavern, Doc's Sports, and had a few late nights, but we called a cab home, and we were going there. It would be a long line through the old Guthrie's gut box. You know what I mean? So
and that cab ticker is just ticking while you're sitting in it. You're paying to wait in the Guthrie's line, but boxes are like $4 or $5, so it's worth it. Right?
And all I remember, Brad, I just have to mention, I'm happily married now. I dated another girl in college, and she loved it. No, she loved it because I was there from 2006 to 2010, and she's like came home one night. She's like, "Yeah, you wouldn't believe who was at Ken's tonight." I'm like, "Who?" She's like, "Some guy named Brad Johnson. Apparently, he played at Tampa Bay." I'm like, "Yeah, and he won a freaking Super Bowl with the Bucks." and you live in Tampa, you should know that. And so I love that. Yeah, Ken's was awesome. I spent way too many nights there in college.
Brad, I don't know if you come back. I know you're busy with Max and stuff there in LSU, but if you come back to Tallahassee, if you come through at any point this year, let us know, man. We'd love to get together, and we'll buy you a gut box or whatever. It'll be on us. But thank you so much again for hanging out. We'll definitely link all your stuff here, all the charity and everything else you do. But thanks so much for taking some time and spending with us tonight, buddy. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man. It's fun being with you guys. Appreciate y'all reaching out, and hopefully get back on with you again. So I
appreciate it, Brad.
All right,
thanks, man. Brad Johnson, Richie, excellent get there. Richie texted me the other day, guys. Watch it, for those watching, listening, whatever. Richie texted me and said, "Hey, by the way, Brad Johnson's coming on this week," and I was like, "Excuse me?" Like the Brad Johnson is coming on this week. So awesome stuff there, man. He was great. I told Richie this off the air. One of the coolest nights of my life was watching the Super Bowl with my dad. Richie told me he celebrated his 15th birthday watching the Super Bowl with his dad, like just kind of memories that you'll never forget. And it was cool watching, the former Knowles win it too, right? Greg, Derek, Dexter, and Brad. Let's not leave anybody out.
And shout out Brad Johnson. He literally just texted me. He said, "Thanks for having me on your show." What a cool guy.
Dude,
I sent him a random DM. and he's like, "Oh, here's my cell phone. Text me instead." I'm like, "Oh, all right." But it's like that. But in my initial DM, I made it clear, like, yeah, I'm a Florida State guy. I'm a Buccaneer fan. I'm a Florida State fan. And he was all about it. Like, yeah, I wanted, like, he basically said, yeah, you guys, I'll work on your schedule. So it's just so cool to have Brad Johnson, Florida State and Tampa Bay Buccaneer legend, on the show.
Now, he was absolutely fantastic. We have a couple more guests. Before we get to them, I want to tell you, Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee. You can visit both their locations at 1818 West Tennessee Street and 2550 North Monroe. Tell them Double Fries No Slaw sent you. Hey, we gave away that cooler last week. I saw that we had a winner there. I was hoping that I could rig that thing for myself, but it didn't work out so well. So, hey, they're still giving away free drinks. If you go by Guthrie's and tell them Double Fries No Slaw sent you, you get a free drink with your order. Before we get to our next two guests, actually, we'll bring them in, then we'll share the video in just a second. So let's bring our next two guests in. Let me see if I can get all four people on this video. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being patient. We're a couple minutes behind. But joining us now live on the podcast, Dr. Jason Pappas, the director, of the sports management department at Florida State. And then we also have Radhik Sharma, Florida State graduate. Now, I don't even want to butcher everything that you've done now, working for Nielsen and everything else. But a couple of, I'll just say FSU legends. We go from one FSU legend to two more coming on here to hang out with us tonight. Guys, thank you for hanging out. Thanks for spending some time with us. How are you gentlemen tonight?
We're doing well. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. TJ, Richie, thank you so much. You guys, your podcast, just listen to Bull. You know, it was funny. I was at the Super Bowl in San Diego in 2002. I was there and present. My first one to attend. It was incredible. And Dexter Jackson being right from Quincy, me being a Knoll. You know, I was a student manager for quarterbacks from 93 to 97. And I was actually at the time that Bull, Brad Johnson, and it's funny, I just had lunch with him up in Athens about a year ago during COVID. And we were just reminiscing the fact that he met his wife during what was called the Quarterback Classic. And Mark Richt, who was our former quarterback coach, started a tradition where he would bring back all the quarterbacks to Destin. And that included Charlie Ward, Danny McManus, P.T. Willis, obviously Brad, and we would compete. He would also bring back the managers who could come. And I was fortunate to be one of those managers. And I was a roommate with Bull. And on this particular weekend, he actually met his now and current wife, Nikki Rick, during that weekend. And it was kind of magical to see over the last 20 years or so, now see his boys and him and develop being part of his life and seeing Bull and just reminiscing to have us right before. It was really neat to see. And that just shows you that powerful Florida State family and what it truly is all about. So it was great to have Bull and Brad here part of not only what he did in football, but what he's continued to do to give back as well.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. And we never, we've talked about this off the air, guys, and this is truly just like I said, like we try to be as real and just have as much fun of a conversation as we can, but we will literally have anyone that's associated with Florida State on this podcast. Like it doesn't, like they can win Super Bowls. They can push the lunch pail around, right? Like we just want to tell FSU's story and do it from different angles. And that's why we have you guys on, right? Like we are going to tell a story tonight. We're going to talk to you guys about a project that you guys have coming out like now for everybody to kind of learn about and hear about. Dr. Pappas, I'll kind of pass it to you. Let's start here and let's jump into it. For those that are tuned in and maybe aren't aware, don't know, can you tell just your background? Go through that 30, 90, 60 second, whatever thing you did with me on the phone the other day, because that was fantastic. But talk to us about your background, what you're doing now, and then we'll get into you guys' project here. And I'll let Radhik introduce himself as well, but you go first, and then we'll go around the horn here, and then we'll talk about what you guys are doing.
Well, TJ and Richie, thank you again. This podcast, and I'm old school. I won't even tell you my age, but for me to really understand podcasts, I'm embarrassed to have Bull doing TikTok, and I didn't even know what TikTok was until he mentioned these pictures and then Instagram. So he's head of the game. So first of all, thank you for supporting Florida State and obviously getting the message out how powerful and great this institution is, but how wonderful that we are as a family to be able to not only get our word out, but to be able to see how great things we're doing, particularly on this podcast. For me, Florida State's a very special place. I came here in 1993. And let me make ourselves clear. I am not the department chair or director. I am just a teacher of Florida State and a passion of sports to be able to help our students hopefully follow their dreams and passion of getting that first full-time job in the sport industry. But I came here in 1993. I actually wanted to walk on, believe it or not, from Titusville, Florida. Back then, it was all Gator country, believe it or not, Space Coast. I went to Astronaut High School. I played a little sports, football, basketball, baseball. I just had a dream of love of sport. Never had any idea that you could actually work in sport. And so when I came to Florida State, it opened up a lot of doors. I ended up realizing that, first of all, nor will I ever see the field of the day, nor will I ever get an opportunity to be able to earn a scholarship. I felt like, what is another way that I could still be part of the football program and earn a scholarship? And sure enough, I was fortunate enough to be given one of 8 scholarships at the time to be the next quarterback manager under Charlie Ward at the time that I was there. To this day, he's one of my closest friends. We did some work with his program. We're at Florida High. Danny Cannell, who was at the time was there, who obviously has done some wonderful things and still does. We had Thad Busby when I was there, Rooster, Marcus Outson, the shout out there. So, but during this time of 4 years, I developed this positive and really mentorship with our coach, Mark Richt. And I want to send my best wishes to Coach. I know he's going through some things health-wise. I want to send that to him. I love you, Coach. Yeah. You were, like I said, one of the biggest inspirationals in my life, and you still are. We just had him at our SMSA program. He spoke within last year or two, but he was able to develop who I am as a man, not just who I was as a person, but just as overall being of godly, and really helped me through a time where 18 to 22 years old, you make decisions that aren't always the best, right? And so he kept you at bay. He kept you humble. And more importantly, he truly cared about you. And he's a true Knoll through and through, and what made Florida State special. And during that time, we got to play national championship in '93, my freshman year. Got to go to the first college game day on the field. And unfortunately, lost to Notre Dame in '93. We ended up playing, obviously, Florida when it was the loudest thing I've ever heard. It was 28-21. Charlie Ward, it was 3rd down and 10. The Gators were coming back, blah, blah. We throw a screen pass to my freshman, my buddy Warwick Dunn, who takes it down the sidelines, and you could hear a hush in the swamp. I'd never seen anything like it in the years come. And so to be able to be a part of that game, and then, of course, a month later, we got to play in the national championship game against now Trev Alberts. He was a linebacker, just got the AD job. I just saw it in Nebraska. Tom Osborne down in the Orange Bowl to play for and win our first national championship. Scott Bentley ended up kicking the game-winning field goal. 18-16. Dan Mowry was there, obviously. Charlie Ward and Kevin Knox, Corey Sawyer. Obviously, we had our running back Sean Jackson and our fullback Williams, the man Floyd was there. So it was a great year for me, and never thought in a million years that would have happened. And so the next 3 years, I was fortunate enough to be a part of some great teams of that 14-year run. We didn't finish less than 4. And for me to be able to understand during those 4 years, I was getting a learning experience that I never knew of. I understood how to run a major football program during those 4 years. I got to understand how to work equipment, how to be able to learn what sport information is about. I learned what compliance was about, academic support, sport information, events and facilities management during this time. And where it wasn't someone like myself to help students get internships, I was able to then learn out on my own as being a part of that program. And so as a result, 96 came around my senior year. I was looking at things to do. We ended up coming back and beating the #1 Gators my senior year, 24-21. We were #1 versus #2. We get into the national championship game, and with all the stars being aligned that year, Florida unfortunately got to play us again in the Sugar Bowl, my last game as a student manager there on the field of the Superdome. And we were right there, 24-21. Late in the 3rd quarter, we had the ball. And then Warwick Dunn gets cramps and gets taken out of the game. And, of course, the rest is history. But I ended up leaving that environment, and I was able to get a graduate assistant job under Coach Bowden in academics under one of my second mentor, Dr. Magdi El-Shahawi. He's now the deputy AD at the University of Georgia, someone that I really look up to and helped me really shape my career. Took me under his wing. I ended up getting my master's degree in sport management back in '98. I didn't finish my undergrad in business communications in '96. And then I got an opportunity to go to the Carolina Panthers in '98 and did an internship there, realized what it takes to work in sport, but also I found out what my passion was. And I think for me, and I tell our students all the time, internships is a way to not necessarily figure out what you want to do and get that skill set in that area, but more importantly, it tells you what you don't want to do. And so during that year in '98 under Dom Capers, and so that was the year that, I don't know if you remember this, but Kevin Green choked Kevin Steele on the sidelines.
Yes.
I had to drive Kevin Green off the field because all the media was there. And this is like, for me, working in professional sports was something that was, something I didn't really particularly find the love for. So when Lou Holtz got the job as a football coach in '99, I was hired to be his academic advisor. I spent 6 years under Coach Holtz, which is an amazing experience there, with Skip, who I love, who actually was at Florida State in '85 as a GA. Charlie Strong was there, got to work with some great coaches and assistants there. And then in 2005, we hired Coach Spurrier. And who would have thought, here I am at a Knoll, and knowing back in the day where I told you about Florida State and those eras, that I got to work with the coach. And I'll say this, he is one of the best, if not the best coaches I ever got to work with as far as a head coach football. I mean, he's salt of the earth, just a phenomenal human being, someone that brought me into his family. He would go, all right, Coach Pat, let's go. Let's talk to the team. Let's get this academic straight and get it going. Always included me in everything we did, put me on the first class, playing on the charter, and just really incorporated that mindset in academics. And I did that for 8 years with the Gamecocks, ended up getting a second master's in higher education administration. And during that time, I got another mentorship, my third, with a guy named Ray Tanner. He was the baseball coach. I got to work with Ray. I lived with Coach. Matter of fact, I just saw him for the first time in almost a decade this past summer up in Columbia, South Carolina. He won 2 national titles there. He's currently the athletic director at the University of South Carolina. He got a new tour of their football facilities, and got to see Eric Kemery, one of our former quarterbacks there. And it was a great experience for me for 8 years and a family there. And then I got recruited to work back with Magdi El-Shahawi in 2006 out in Southern Cal as an assistant AD under Pete Carroll during the heyday. We had Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush my first year. We played Texas in the Rose Bowl. And then we had Clay Matthews, Ray Maluga, the staunch of just a phenomenal era there during that 30 for 30, if you saw that. And for me to get a behind-the-scenes look of that close hand was amazing. I got my doctorate degree there. And then finally, I got recruited back as associate AD here in academics at Florida State. And I knew when they called to come home, that was where I needed to be. And so I took that job and was at 2011. I transferred in faculty shortly thereafter, and now I've been here for the last 10 years, really enhancing our program from a experiential learning piece, right? So my job was to make sure our students got tremendous experiences, internships, connections, and that's a great leeway to introduce Radek and how we got together and how we were able to develop our relationship, but meet as a student and as a faculty member back in, I believe it's 2014.
And so that does take us to Radek. Radek, just before you go, I do want to ask Dr. Pappas, just quickly, Florida State's 2013 team beats that 06 USC team, right? Like if those two teams go head to head, we're winning that, right? Like just easy.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you, that 06 USC, the star power in that game was unbelievable. I mean, you got to remember, I think it was between Texas and USC that had over 24 current NFL players at some era during that time. But you got to look at 2013, though. Our team with Jameis, I mean, it was incredible. I mean, and I honestly think we were a little bit underrated as much as we
agree.
took and because we didn't get that kind of spotlight that you would typically have of a team like the 13. And not only star power, but we were so well coached from top to bottom. And so, you know what? I think, I'm biased too. You got to remember this. But I would go with the 2013 Knoll team too as well. But that is absolutely a great matchup to see for sure, to see how that would play out. But I would definitely favor the Knolls over that one for sure.
Yeah, I'd have something close, like, I don't know, 48-3 or something like that. Like that's how I.
Not really.
Radek, thank you for joining us as well. Talk to us a little bit about your journey. Talk to us about we're going to get into why you guys are on the pod too, but give the folks that are listening and watching a little bit of your background as well, if you don't mind. Thank you guys both again for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. TJ, Richie, thank you so much for having us again. Speaking of 2013, that was the year that I did join Florida State to pursue my master's in sports management. Best decision I ever made. But taking a step back, I'm originally from India. Did my undergrad in computer science engineering, and while I had a full-time job and it was something that I was reasonably good at, it wasn't something that I saw myself doing for the rest of my life. And sports was always a big part of my life. I grew up playing cricket, soccer, ping pong, at the professional, semi-professional level as well across these sports. And it was at that time that I was always fascinated by the business of sports. Like I was always curious, when I would watch Sports Center highlights and looking at the various coaches on the teams or on the sidelines, what are some of the skill sets that one requires to be able to make those game time decisions. So that was one aspect of it, but more so, I really want to get a better sense of the business side of things. So after working for a couple of years, after getting my undergrad degree in engineering, I did a lot of research about the top, sports management programs globally. Looked at Australia, looked at Europe, looked at North America, and I think it was pretty clear in my research that some of the best sports management programs are in the US. And so took a leap of faith, applied to a couple of programs, spoke to a few people, and I was really fortunate to be recruited by the Florida State program in 2013, as I rightly mentioned. So, to set the stage, I did not know much about American sports. I obviously followed the NBA growing up in India, huge Michael Jordan fan, and then Allen Iverson, so on and so forth. But then American football was completely new to me, and so for someone like myself, being thrown into Florida State football, where I got the opportunity to intern, and then suddenly, you're making all these national headlines. Just having the ability to get that kind of exposures was second to none. And it was at that time that getting that exposure obviously really cemented my decision that this is such a great place to be. But then also on the academic side, having the access to some of the best faculty across all sports management programs nationwide really set me up for success. So while at Florida State, I did a couple of internships. One was with the International Junior Golf Tour in South Carolina. One was with Disney Sports in Orlando for about a year. And at that same time, I was working. I was more interested, like at that time, in the sport of golf, and really to understand like some of the best revenue management practices that are implemented across the world. And that's where I came across Don Farr, who now is the chair of our Dead Man School of Hospitality. And he kind of took me under his wing, just kind of, I got to understand about some of the basic revenue management practices. And on one of my trips back to India, I just sent a blind email to the president of the PGA of India. And I said, listen, this is what I'm studying right now. What if we were to bring these practices to Asia and really enhance the way business is done as far as golf is concerned? So that somehow got a lot of national recognition. This whole story was picked up in the Times of India, which is like the New York Times here in the US. So I did want to work in the golf industry, and so I got connected with a few folks at the PGA Tour, and just through those relationships, I was able to secure a full-time position out of their corporate headquarters in New York. So I was there for about a couple of years. So I was focused more on corporate partnerships, business development, like helping Fortune 500 companies understand the power of working or championing the PGA Tour, and what events or tournaments should they be looking to partner with to be able to reach their target audience. And while doing that, I was very interested in like sports sponsorship and analytics, and that's where I essentially was able to transition to this role at Nielsen Sports, where I lead our brands vertical to be able to provide all of our brands clients with data-driven insights around all of their sports sponsorship investments. So that's a little bit about my journey from Florida State to Disney to the PGA Tour, and to currently being stationed in New York working for Nielsen as part of the sports business vertical.
Yeah, and we definitely want to get into y'all's book quickly, but I have to mention or have to ask, because you mentioned working with the PGA and being in golf. Florida State, man, 2 top 10 finishes at the Open this weekend. Daniel Berger and Brooks Koepka. Brooks, man, if he had just had a better Saturday, I think he could have won it. But shout out Colin Morikawa. Like, that guy is phenomenal, and he's going to win a lot of majors in his future. But just quick thoughts on that, because I know you mentioned you did a lot of work on the tour. It's got to be cool seeing a Florida State guy like Brooks just dominating the majors. Even when he's not winning, he's still finishing top 10.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it's just amazing to see how he's evolved as an athlete, both on a personal and professional level. And he's so young and he's so like fit. And as far as like the future is concerned, I mean, what he's already accomplished in terms of whatever he's won so far, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, I think sky's the limit for him, for sure.
You're on mute, TJ.
I was gonna say, why is nobody talking back to me? All right, no, he's a ton of fun to watch. But now we'll get into the book. Now we'll get into why you brought you guys on. Appreciate the background. Appreciate that. You guys tell me what you want to do. You want me to show the video real quick and play that, or do you guys want to talk about it and then show the video, or what are we doing first? You guys tell me. You're the bosses now.
I think
You're the captain. You're the captain now.
Yeah. All right, I'm with it. Yeah, let's show the video. Let's see if I can do this. This is live. So we'll see how good I am. I wish I had a producer that could do all this for me, but his internet's terrible. And there's tornadoes going through and everything else. So, all right, I think we have it here. We'll hit play and we'll shut up and let you guys watch the video. So the video there talking about the book, I know we're talking a little bit about the sound. It'll come through higher on we'll do some post-production editing and things of that nature. Harlan, I'll make sure I get it to you. Talk to us, Dr. Pappas. Let's start with you. Talk to us about the vision for the book. There's a little, those listening and watching can check that out, but talk to us a little bit about the vision for the book. What's going on with the book? Just give us the overview. Give us the 411 all the way around.
Absolutely, TG. You know, I would like to take credit for this book, but it's not even close to me. It was actually Radix. Like you said, almost 8 years ago, he started at Florida State. And you got to remember, he came from a culture where there was not a whole lot of sport management opportunities in terms of curriculum, in terms of job opportunities. Because in their culture, the parents, their children towards either be an engineer, doctor, lawyer. And here's a young man who already had his career set. He was a computer science engineer, ends up getting the opportunity to come to Florida State. And you got to think about it. You know, when you already have a career, you're in a whole nother world, a whole nother part of the culture. His father, he doesn't even tell him about it. He was a retired general in the Indian Army, which is incredible in itself. His mother was the one that was very progressive and pushed Radek to follow his dreams and aspirations. And so he ends up leaving his career, his family, his culture, and moves to Tallahassee, Florida, of all places, to study sport management. And fortunately for me, I was able to develop a very good relationship with him. He was one of my better students, if not one of the best. He would meet with me on a regular basis to help mentor and guide him. And we ended up getting an internship down at Disney, as mentioned, International Junior Golf Tour. But after one of my classes, I taught professional development sport. And within that class, the premise behind that class is to be able to help our students market themselves and be able to separate themselves from a very competitive industry, to elevate themselves from a pack of resumes, to be able to at least get that interview. And then our students will showcase themselves just like Radek has. So at the end of the class, he asked me, "Hey, Dr. Pap, I just wanted to ask if I wanted to write this book. And I want to write this book about not necessarily the people on the field, but behind the scenes of these high-level sport professional executives to talk about their career journey, to see what types of sacrifice and advice they would offer anybody that's interested in going in the industry of sport, or just who are enthusiastic of sport, to really understand what it takes and to be able to go through such a wonderful career, but one that can be challenging if you don't know ahead of time. So at the time, I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, sure, Braddock. But sure to his word, he calls me up 4 years ago and he goes, Pap, you ready to write this book? And so here we are 3.5 years later. We traveled all over the country, from West Coast to East Coast to Northeast to the Southeast. I flew in one day to LA and back all in one day just to be able to interview like Tucker Kane, Amy Trask of the Raiders, and to kind of go over that. I like to, forward that to Braddock to kind of show where that project ended up going as it is today. And it was really his vision and his really idea to get this to where we're at today.
Braddock, we talked about this when we met before the podcast, but for those that like do want that deeper level of understanding, like some people just are not satisfied with the what, they want to know the why, right? And that's what I think your book encapsulates. I love sports, right? I literally host a sports podcast, right? So I talk with Brad Johnson about plays that happened from 18, 19 years ago, and I talked to him about those all night, right? We'd have kept him on here for an hour if we didn't have you guys coming on after. So like, I love the what, but for the fan that like wants to know how these things work, the why, the deeper meaning, man, how does the front office work? How's the back office work? How does this work? How do these exec, because we see LeBron, right? We see Kobe, we see Michael, we see Jameis, and we see Brady, and we see all of these guys. But like, how does the actual operation of sport work? And man, that's what I'm excited about to get a copy of the book. Hopefully I can get it signed by you guys. But that's what I'm excited about, to get a copy of the book and really learn about it is I think it goes deeper level than just the 60-minute game or the 48-minute game or whatever. Where did that passion to do a project like this come from? Why did you want to do this? And then, beside just that, like talk to us about the book itself, Dr. Continuing on what Dr. Pappas talked about as well.
Yeah, certainly. So I think, some of the best projects that really come to life are those that, foster from your own personal experiences. And so, as Dr. Pappas alluded, when I came here, I really wanted to understand the business of sport. And sure enough, there's certain things that you need to do. You need to network with the right people. You need to get those internships to be able to understand this is what I want to potentially do if I do work in sports, and also understand, okay, these are the things that I potentially do not want to get involved in moving forward. So at that time, in speaking with my peers, I also understood, I would always have the very candid conversations like, tell me more about yourself. Like some of them were like athletes sitting in my class, and what do you want to do with a master's in sports management? And I could not really get the most specific answer which I was looking for. Like they said, I've been an athlete, I have an undergrad in sports management, but I want to get a master's degree and possibly work on the marketing side of things or something more. But I never got specific answers. So again, since I've been so focused on research, I did a lot of reading and tried to find a resource which would help me address these questions. Sure enough, I found a few books which were really like introductions to sports management, like the kind of jobs that are available in sports marketing. You could do sports finance, you could focus on sponsorship. And that was great. That was super helpful. But at the end of the day, to your point, I really focus on the why. Like, why would someone like me want to work on the sports sponsorship side of things? And so to be able to do that, I really wanted to write a book which would essentially address this problem, right? Today, every second day, I get students rather reach out to me every second day because they understand, because they are essentially in my shoes where I was 7-8 years ago, where they want to work in sports, but they don't know exactly what path to take or how to get that first full-time internship or that first full-time, opening into the industry. As we all know, it's very competitive. So that's where, always wanting to write a book, I approached Dr. Pappas and said, let's come up with this very unique concept where we would give a platform to some of the most celebrated executives in the industry to tell their story. And I think what makes our book unique is the fact that, we haven't really focused on their professional journey. I mean, if I want to look at what the general manager of the Buffalo Bills has done, I could just Google him, or I could find his information on LinkedIn.
Sure.
That's not what we're trying to accomplish. We really want to understand what have been some of the steps that they've taken along the way to get to where they are today, both from a personal standpoint and professional standpoint. So what you learn from this book is there are a lot of personal anecdotes, life lessons, which some of these executives have been able to implement for them to be successful in their day-to-day personal and professional lives.
What we talked about off the air is just that their work ethic has made these executives so great that they probably would have been great in no matter what they went into. Like they may be the CEO of the Golden State Warriors, but if they had been the CEO of any other Fortune 500, they'd have been successful doing that. And that's really what it took. Dr. Pappas has been gracious enough to allow us to try and chat with some students that may want to kind of help out with some of the things that we do and learn some of the media stuff that we've done. And it's kind of given me the perspective when I'm chatting with some of them. They all come to me and they all say, well, I wanted to go to FSU because they have the #1 sport management department. And then I kind of turn it back on them and say, well, I know what FSU can do for you. Like that's not what I'm worried about. I want to know what you want to do. Like, are you willing to put the time in? Are you willing to, because we, like I said earlier, we see Kobe and we see LeBron and we see Michael. And I don't want to say their jobs are easy, but their jobs are just to show up, right? Like just to show up. But like all the things that go on behind the scenes and the painstaking hours and the commitment and the effort level that people that you'll never hear about their names have to put in. And unless you're blessed with the ability to jump over people and dunk a basketball on a 10-foot rim, you're probably not living out that LeBron James life. And so you say you want to work in sport. And as you guys know, because you put the time in, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Maybe more so than I don't want to say more so than any other thing, but a lot of other jobs are just very 9 to 5, very clock in, clock out. And that's just not the case. Dr. Pappas, talk a little bit about that, that time, that effort, that energy that goes into every kid wants to work in sports because we're all fans, right? Like we all cheer for the Knowles. We all cheer for the Bucks. We cheer for the Knowles. We cheer for the Lightning. We cheer for this team, that team. There's a lot more that goes into it than just being a fan of a sport.
Well, TJ, you're absolutely 100% right. And that's kind of where this book is really all about. And I'll give you an example. I'll have students call me up, even high school now, and they want to go, hey, Dr. Pap, I want to be an athletic director. I want to be a GM in the NFL. And they have no idea what that looks like and what it's going to take to get them there, right? So what I first tell them is that, to work in the sport industry is not necessarily a career move. It's really a lifestyle. And do you really have the passion and desire to want to do that for a long period of time for the rest of your life? And a lot of students are very naive to that piece, right? So what we try to do is we inform them before you even think about going to sport management. Are you willing to work for free? And not always, but you have to understand that you're here to get the experience because you have a short period of time where you can get this experience to be able to get you that first full-time job in sport. The other thing is, are you worried about, like you said, 9 to 5? Are you worried about working holidays? Are you working weekends? If so, then this may not be a field that you have, because you got to understand sport is entertainment, and you've got to be able to entertain at all types of levels. And I say to them is that if you are willing to do that, then this is a great field to do, because one of the great things about sport, and I'll say this just from working in it, and Brad could probably say the same thing. Yeah, it can be a grind at times. It can wear you down with your family and trying to balance your work and life stability. But the thing that I find most is that when that alarm goes off at whatever time in the morning or whatever time you have to go to work, and you hear that alarm and you get fired up and knowing that you're not going to work, you're doing something that you love to do, that you're getting paid for. That's why you go into sport. That's why you have a passion. There's a lot of sacrifice in that. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. But if you truly have a desire and a passion to want to work in this industry, there's no better field. And by having an understanding of that going into our field, or even reading this book, will help you identify some of those skill sets that are really going to help separate you from a very large competition. But more importantly, find what you have in your belief and who you are to be able to make that a lifestyle choice instead of a career choice.
The book is Masters of the Game. Vradek, when is this going live? Where can people get it? What are the details on this? We've got folks in the comments. I want a copy. Folks all over kind of getting excited about it. We've definitely jacked them up for it. So give us the details, man. Where can we get this? We've hyped it up for 25 minutes now. They're chomping at the bit.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So the book is available to be on our website called mastersofthegamethebook.com. And we can share the details in the chat as well. But essentially, you can buy the book now. We will have the website ready by tomorrow. And then eventually, it will be available across all platforms. August 15th is really the release date, but we are taking pre-orders now as well.
Awesome. We're excited to get it. We're excited to read it. I know that folks in the chat again are excited for it too. So glad to see some comments coming in. Gentlemen, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but we appreciate you guys so much for coming on, chatting with us, taking time out of your well, Dr. Pappas, I don't know. You just got back from Hawaii, so I'm still not very happy with you. But I appreciate both of you guys for coming on and hanging out tonight, taking time out of your schedules away from your families. But in all seriousness, I know that you did just get off a plane, so I'll give you a little bit of slack there. But you're not off my list for the whole, being in Hawaii for the last week and a half. But
you know who I met out there, though, TJ? You'll appreciate this. You talked about Mike Norvell. I don't know if you know a coach named Todd Graham. And got a chance to really spend some time with the director of football operations at the University of Hawaii. Talk about a challenging place to work in sport, right? I mean, here you are, 2,600 miles from the mainland. I know June Jones had some success out there, but let me tell you something. Their facilities, it's brutal. And here, they're a $45 million operating budget at the University of Hawaii, and half that is with salaries and travel, because you think recruiting, and now with NIL, they didn't even know where. And so I got a chance to meet with the associate athletic director, Vince Balmar, when I was out there. I got to meet with the director of Hawaii, of the Sheraton Bowl. So what I try to do when I do vacation, my wife gives me a hard time, is that while you're at these places, you've got to take advantage of developing that network. So that's why we try to teach our students, anywhere you go during spring break or the summer, be intentional in going that extra mile to introduce yourself. There's no better way to learn than talk to professionals themselves. But Todd Graham is a perfect example of Mike Norvell. Todd Graham was basically Mike Norvell's mentor, and he's a first class. I mean, what he's been able to do from the football sector at Tulsa, at Pitt, at Arizona State, and look what he did at Hawaii just last year. He turned that program around, won a bowl game last year over the University of Houston in the Sheraton Hawaii Bowl, and just great individual who really will take the time and effort to really not only mentor players involved in football, but in life. And those are the people you want to surround yourself. So just as important as it is that you enjoy your job, just as important it is to really have a passion for what you do, but it's the people you work with that you believe in each and every day, because you spend a lot of hours with these professionals, and you better know well in what you're getting into, that the people that you love that are going to go to bat for you and that care about you. And I'm so fortunate that I have a faculty here at Florida State that do that. Dr. Jeff James, our department chair, all the way down to our Dr. Newman, Dr. Rodenberg, Dr. Flanagan, Dr. Kim, Dr. Hanhan. All the new, we just hired Dr. Pfeiffer, Dr. Du. We just have a tremendous staff, and it's fun to go to work each every day. And I challenge our students and our professionals to find that passion, because, like I said, it's like you've never worked a day in your life. And I hope everyone gets that privilege as they start into their careers, or as they continue to find that, as we get it through a pandemic, which I can't wait to get back to sport, just for our students' sakes alone, and just for every sport fan out there to really get some normalcy back here as we get here in the fall of 2020. September 5th, Notre Dame, 7:30. This Tallahassee is going to be explosive, and I cannot wait for that day to come here sooner than later, with 30-something days away. So I'm fired up.
49 days from today, we're doing a big tailgate. Vrodic, you're not in Tallahassee anymore, right? You're in New York, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
All right, well, you need to get down to Tallahassee for the game. We're doing a big tailgate. Dr. Pappas, you have to come eat some fried chicken tenders, some Guthrie's. It's all on us. So, gentlemen, we appreciate you guys so much for hanging out. We're excited to get the book, excited to kind of follow the journey, and again, we'll definitely share everything once it comes out on all our social medias. I mean, I'm excited for it to come out so I can get one and read it, but I'm so jacked about it. And thank you guys so much for coming on and hanging out with us tonight. We can't tell you thank you enough.
For sure.
Well, TJ, Richie, thank you so much. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for the support of our student athletes, our coaches, the entire Florida State University and the athletic department. And thanks again for all you do, and go Noles.
Hey, Dr. Pappas, as a Florida State sport management graduate, I appreciate all you guys do, and I love it. Florida State College of Education Sport Management 2010 right here. So I'm
nice.
all in on everything you guys do.
I didn't know that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I
Rich.
wait till the very last minute of the
I know
interview
that.
to tell you that.
He wanted to make sure he liked us before he said it.
But no, honestly, like I did the
awesome.
sport management program and I loved it. I think you guys do a phenomenal job. And any high school kids that I may come into contact with, I tell them, listen, Florida State, don't be fooled. It is college of education, but it is a phenomenal program. You guys do a phenomenal job. And I want to thank you guys and hope to continue to grow the program because it's really important. I would not be where I am right now without my degree in sport management from Florida State. So I love it.
Thank you.
And if
Thank
you check the
It means a lot.
rankings, it's ranked number 1 right now.
Yes. Yep. The graduate program is number
that's what
1
I'm
in the
saying.
country.
All these kids that I interview for the interns, they always tell me like, "Oh, number 1 sport minute." I always say it.
All about
I know
marketing.
that. I know that. What are you gonna do? I don't care about. I know Florida State's great. What are you gonna do? Tell me about FSU. I know they're awesome. So, guys, thank you a ton. We'll Dr. Fabs, we'll see you on Labor Day. We're
Thank you
excited
so
for
much.
it.
Yeah.
But you guys have a
That's
great
a given.
rest of your week, man. We're excited to get the book in our hands for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you,
you.
guys.
Thank you, fellas.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Dr. Pappas and Vradik Sharma, we appreciate them for coming on and hanging out for a little bit. Go get their book. It's not live right now, but
Yeah.
it will be tomorrow morning. Masters of the Game. Masters of the Game. Search that, Google that. mastersofthegame.com, I believe. Masters of the Game. Go check that out. Get a copy. Really good stuff. Like I said, I'm somebody that likes to learn, likes to understand things. I also just like to think that I'm a know-it-all, right? So anything that I can kind of learn helps with that. And so understanding that why as opposed to just the what is big for me.
Yeah. And on top of that, it's also cool to just randomly talk to a Super Bowl champion quarterback. We did that. No big deal, right?
Well, of course, my mic kind of gives out right there at the last of the show. Hold on, let me.
Oh man, but
That
yeah,
was
a great
million
show.
things to
Honestly,
edit
Dr. Pappas, like they both were great. Like I said, I'm a graduate of the sport management program at Florida State University, so it's very near and dear to my heart. So to have two of those guys on to talk about it, I loved it. And again, got to talk to a Super Bowl winning champion, Brad Johnson. So a phenomenal episode.
The ability of Richie and myself, I mean, like I don't pat ourselves on the back too much, but the ability to like pivot from Brad Johnson, who's outside in his yard like doing trick shots, to like a couple of authors of a book that's about to blow up. It's pretty good. Like I'll just give us a little bit of a pat on the back. Like I
might hurt my elbow, pat myself on the
I
back,
don't want to
but
go
that's
too
okay.
crazy here, but hey man, no, we appreciate those that tuned in, those that hung out. A little bit of a long episode with a couple of interviews, but I thought they were both really, really good. If you tuned in, halfway through or didn't check out the first interview with Brad Johnson, Super Bowl champion, former FSU quarterback, we really didn't talk about FSU very much. But when you win a Super Bowl, that's all anybody wants to talk about.
Exactly.
And then
Dude's got a ring. So.
An interview with Dr. Pappas and Vradik Sharma. FSU Sports Management book, Masters of the Game. Go check that out. Again, we gave away our Guthrie's cooler. Shout out to Walter Sachs, won that. We may have another couple of giveaways, a couple of quicker giveaways coming up with Guthrie's as well. They're sending me some stuff in the mail this week. So as soon as that comes in, we'll start to do some quicker giveaways. It won't be anything as good as a cooler, but we'll have some fun stuff coming up. We have some fun episodes planned, some fun episodes coming up. Go check out the website, www.doublefriesnoslaw.com. Some cool series there. Richie's going to work on a golf piece tonight. I can tell between this and something else we're doing, special pop-up. But, good stuff going on the website. Shout out our guys, Dustin, Ed, Mike, myself, Richie, all throwing stuff up here and there. Harlan and Brian do some stuff just on the countdowns that we're doing towards season. 49 days to go. I'm getting excited, guys. I've started this little video thing where I put a video up every day. I guess I'm committing to that. So 49 days to go. Richie, you got any shout outs before we get out of here?
No, I guess shout out my wife. She dealt with me waking up at like 4 a.m. the past few nights or past few mornings to watch the British Open. Brooks Koepka didn't quite get it done, but him and Daniel Berger, both two former Florida State alum in the top 10. And shout out Colin Morikawa, man. Like I called him before the week. No big
Did
deal.
you talk? Oh,
I-
you called him to win.
Yeah, I called him to win. No. I wish I just had like one of the best players in the world on my. I do have a former Super Bowl champion in my contacts, but I do not have Colin Morikawa. But phenomenal win. Great for him. Had a lot of fun. Shout out Mark and Rachel, our friends who went to their new place downtown Orlando today. Hung out at the pool. But yeah. Brad Johnson and then the Florida State Sports Management Program. Great show. I loved it, man.
No, ton of fun. Appreciate everybody for hanging out. I don't have any shout outs this week. Sorry. So I'll try.
You take the song then. There we go.
I don't know what the song's going to be either, but it's probably something that's going to piss somebody off. So if you get pissed off if you get pissed off at the song, then shout out to you. We'll be back next Sunday with another episode. Next Sunday, there will only be 42 days until football. Like I'm counting this down. I even told Kara this week, I said, like, hey, the first Sunday that we're going to like miss in a long time is going to be that Labor Day. I'm not doing a show that Sunday night. We'll do a show Monday night. So,
oh, wow. And we'll have been over a year. We got to be coming up close to our 1-year anniversary at this point, right?
I think the first episode was very beginning of August. So, yeah, we'll have a 1-year anniversary episode coming up soon. Maybe do something big for that one. Stay tuned for some special stuff dropping soon. I don't know exactly when some stuff's going to drop, but we may live in a little nostalgia here soon. For myself, TJ Pittenger, Richie Barnes, Harlan Harris behind the, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, but Harlan Harris running everything on the back end. Until we see you guys again, go Noles.